All right, let's dive into a real mystery at the heart of our economy. We're going to talk about the ghost in the boardroom.
You see these headlines all the time, right? Some CEO gets a bonus that's just eye-watering, or a company suddenly pivots to fight climate change. And you gotta wonder, who is really making that call? Is it the CEO, the board? Well, the truth is a little more complicated than that. So on paper, the answer is simple. It's the shareholders. They own the company, they get to vote. But think about it. If you have a 401k or own a few ETFs, have you ever actually voted on a corporate proposal? Probably not. So if you're not voting, who is? And that is where things get really interesting. This brings us to the first part of our mystery, the giants who are casting those votes on your behalf. We're talking about these massive, and I mean massive, asset managers. These are the firms that take our money from millions of us, pool it all together into these giant funds, and then invest it. And here's the kicker. When they buy those shares, they get all the voting rights that come with them. And the scale here, it's just hard to wrap your head around. The clients of just one of the advisory firms we're about to talk about, they manage over $40 trillion in assets. That is an unbelievable concentration of power and influence. So what's their goal? Well, they're pretty clear about it. This is a direct quote from BlackRock, the biggest of them all. Their objective is to advance their clients' long-term financial interests. Now, I want you to remember that word, financial. It is absolutely key to understanding what happens next. But okay, let's think about this logically. A firm like BlackRock owns shares in thousands and thousands of companies. Every single one of those companies has annual meetings with tons of proposals. We're talking executive pay, director elections, social policies. How on earth could one firm possibly research and make an informed vote on every single one of those issues? Well, the short answer is they don't. And that brings us to the next very important layer in this story, the influential advisors. See, these asset giants, they don't go it alone. They lean heavily on two incredibly powerful firms that, for most people, are practically invisible: Lewis and Institutional Shareholder Services, better known as ISS. These guys, they are the real ghosts in the machine. So what do? Their entire business model is to be a proxy advisor. They do the nitty-gritty work of analyzing all those countless proposals, and then they give the big asset managers recommendations on how to vote, all based on a set of guidelines. And because so much money follows their advice, their influence is just enormous. Okay, and this is where it gets really fascinating, because not all guidelines are the same, not even close. In fact, they can represent totally different ideas about what a company's even for. It's a genuine clash of guidelines.
Let's make this super concrete. Imagine a pretty straightforward scenario. A shareholder proposal comes up that just asks the company to publish a report detailing what it spends on voluntary environmental projects. Simple enough, right? So how would our different players advise a big investor to vote? First up, let's look at BlackRock's own wealth-focused guidelines. Remember their number one goal? Advancing financial interests. So following that logic to the letter, their official guideline is to vote against the proposal. But now let's look at one of the policies from ISS, their socially responsible investing policy. They recommend voting for the exact same proposal. Why? Because their rationale is that this kind of stuff can actually impact long-term value and pose a risk to the company. So right there, you have two of the most powerful voices whispering completely opposite advice. And it gets even more layered. ISS also has something called a Catholic faith-based policy. It also recommends voting for the proposal, but for a totally different reason. This time, it's because it aligns with religious teachings about being good stewards of the environment. So you can get the same vote, but driven by a completely different worldview. And look, this isn't just about social issues. This stuff cuts to the very core of how companies are run. Take something as basic as how you elect a director. Lewis, for instance, is a big fan of majority voting, the idea that a director needs over 50% of the vote. They think it makes directors pay more attention. But other guidelines might push for cumulative voting, which lets smaller shareholders pool their votes to elect a single director, giving minority groups a seat at the table. We're talking about two fundamentally different philosophies about power itself. Now, to be fair, they aren't arguing about everything. There are some core principles where pretty much everyone is on the same page. Things like one share, one vote, protecting shareholders from having their stake devalued, and making sure boards have plenty of independent directors.
But as we've already seen, the real fireworks happen in how they interpret and apply these big ideas. So let's bring this all back. What does this whole hidden architecture of advisors and competing guidelines actually mean for you and the money sitting in your portfolio? What it means is that the philosophies baked into the voting policies of just a handful of firms are effectively setting the rules of the game for a massive chunk of corporate America. They are the invisible hand that guides the visible one. Let's just walk that path one last time. It's simple, really. 1, you invest your money. 2, your fund manager gets the right to vote your shares. 3, they pay a proxy advisor like ISS to help them decide how to vote. And 4, that advisor's philosophy influences corporate behavior all across the country. It's a direct chain of command that starts right in your savings account. So, if you're going to remember just a few things from all this, here they are. First, your investments aren't just sitting there. They come with voting power that you've handed over. Second, these proxy advisors you've probably never heard of have an incredible amount of concentrated influence. Third, their different guidelines are part of a real live debate about the entire purpose of a corporation. And finally, this hidden system is quietly shaping everything from CEO pay to global policy. So the next time you look at your investment portfolio, just remember it's more than just numbers on a screen. Your money has a voice. It's speaking up in the biggest boardrooms in the world. And the crucial question you have to ask yourself is, who do you want speaking for you?